Coming to you from Project 4 Studios in sunny Burbank, California, ArtSchool Records presents On the Green Couch. Good morning, Raz.
Good morning, Bill. This is a rare morning podcast for us.
We're taping at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Well, it's 9:30 now, but yeah, we got here at 9.
Got here at 9. Dicked around for a bit. And it is Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas, Bill.
Merry Christmas, Raz. You got plans tonight?
Yeah. I'm going to do some stuff. Going to probably head downtown. A big fan of the Biltmore Hotel. They have a really cool thing. They usually have like a giant spread.
Do they do a big tree here, like a Rockefeller Center type of tree?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Let me know.
You know, they have ice skating on Pershing Square.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what? Last time I went down there, it was in the summer. You know, I went down just to go and check out, Pershing Square. And I'm walking down there and they had like bands. It was like bands on the quad type of thing, right? And I come walking around the corner and I can't really see anything, but I can hear it. And I was like, there was a band that was like playing some Jefferson Starship music. I was like, oh, cool. It's a Jefferson Starship cover band, right? I come around the corner and the sign was like, tonight only Jefferson Starship.
I was pissed off when I found out that I had missed the B-52s playing there.
But it is weird, like, because there's a lot of great things that happen downtown and in LA, but it's so much. So if you don't know, then you really don't know. But if you're in the know, then you go, oh, yeah, totally. The B-52s were playing, or
So get hip, people.
Get hip.
That's Raz's message to you this holiday season. You want gifts? Here's a gift. Get hip.
Get hip. That's my that's my year-end advice from
That's your urine advice.
From a middle-aged man that's completely out of the loop now.
This is our last one of the year, Raz.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to do like a look back and to ask you, or you know what? I have an idea.
Okay.
I'm going to look up a list of the best albums of the year.
And you want my take on them?
I want to see how many of these you've even heard of, first
Okay.
of all. Whose critical taste do you think would sync up? New York Times, NPR, Pitchfork, Vice, Paste, or Brooklyn Vegan?
I'll take Pitchfork for 200, please.
Okay. Let's see how many of these you've heard of. Floating Points with their album Crush.
Nope.
No. How about Faye Webster with the Atlanta Millionaires Club?
Nope.
Okay, we're 2 for 2. Danny Brown, You Know What I'm Saying?
Nope.
Barker with Utility.
No.
Chai with their album Punk.
Nope.
DaBaby with his album Baby on Baby.
No.
How about Holly Herndon with their album Proto?
Nope.
Rico Nasty and Kenny Beats with Anger Management.
Nope.
100 Gex with their album 1000 Gex.
Yes.
You heard of that one.
I've heard of that
We only
one.
had to get 8 in.
Okay.
You've heard of it. Have you heard it?
I haven't heard it, but I've heard some of it.
What do you think of that record?
What I heard, I liked.
What about it did you like about 100 Gex?
I don't know, but I liked it. It's like, so I went to a podcast. It was the New York Times podcast, and I saw that they had an episode about the band.
Mm-hmm.
So they started talking about the band.
I remember that episode, John Caramonica talking about how they're sort of like a weird boiling down of all of these Warped Tour sounds of 10 years ago.
Yes.
And so I think it's funny that you would say that you like that as you're also being introduced to My Chemical Romance.
Yes. That was...
Maybe Raz is a 15-year-old from 10 years ago.
I am a 15-year-old from 10 years ago.
That's funny. I knew you looked like you were 25.
Yeah, I feel like I'm 25. No, and it is interesting, and I think, and we were talking about this kind of before the mics went on about the labeling. You know, for example, My Chemical Romance, right, came out like way after I should have been into them. You know, and the thing that kind of pushed me away from it was the, oh well, this is an emo band, right, and it's like the labeling of the emo thing prevented me from going, you know what, I'll give this a listen, or even give it an honest listen. It might have come on the radio and be like, whatever, it's an emo band. So we've had a couple of guests that have been talking about the Black Parade. So much like the Billie Eilish thing, I was like, you know what, let me give this thing a listen, right? And it was great. I was like, man, this is like a really good record.
This will come up in a future episode, but we spoke to bass player for The Strangers, Jesse S. He's a fan of My Chemical Romance. He's very excited that the band is getting back together, and played, I think, 2 nights ago, a reunion show here in Los Angeles. So that's where this is
that's where
stemming from.
Yeah.
We are not under the impression that the Black Parade just came out or something, but
right.
the New York Times did a retrospective on the record and its 70s sort of more ambitious classic rock influences behind the record. And so there's a couple of things feeding into this.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
that
right.
we would be having this specific record on our minds.
Right. Like, I know it didn't just come out.
To clarify for listeners, we're not that out of touch.
I am relatively out of touch, but I'm open-minded. And that's what it did. It spurred on that thing. It's much like the Billie Eilish thing when we talked to King Mala, and she was like, oh yeah, Billie Eilish. And so I was like, oh, let me give this a listen. So the Black Parade, and it's a great album, and it has all elements of like David Bowie and Pink Floyd and all kinds of stuff like that.
I hear a lot of ELO on that.
ELO, you're right. There's a lot of there's a lot to it, and it's a well thought out album. But that's the thing that kind of got me going was and I think I alluded to this before we kind of turned on the mics. It's the religion around the music.
Religion around the
music.
The
religion. So like, it's that philosophy. It's like, oh, this is classified as like an emo thing. So again, I was a little too old to be, by the time the emo thing came out, to be into like an emo thing. But it's one of those things that, instantly kind of turned me away because I didn't belong to that tribe. I didn't belong to that religion. So it was like, oh, I don't understand what's going on here, so I'm just going to go somewhere else. That's kind of one of the things that bothers me a little bit about some of we talk about the granularization of going, oh, this is dream pop trap, or this is something.
Ooh, if you make a dream pop trap record, hit us up.
Right, you know what I mean?
Get into our DMs on Twitter. Send us an email, info@artschoolrecords.com. We want to hear your dream pop trap album.
It's part of the thing about people wanting to kind of belong into like specific groups and identify and stuff like that. But what it does kind of do is it prevents some people to go, well, I don't really associate with that, so I never kind of get to jump into what you guys are laying down.
Because words have baggage.
Right. Yeah.
If somebody says they make a punk record, that could be the Slits, that could be Black Flag, that could be My Chemical Romance, that could be, Devo.
Right.
None of those things especially sound similar on a granular level, and so there may be one of those things that suits you more than another, but because of the word punk, you think, Sid Vicious looking piece of shit, intentionally ripped t-shirt held back together with safety pins, purple mohawk,
right,
bad attitude, leopard print,
right,
creeper sneakers.
So we had that conversation with Stephanie from Lohaze about her wanting to be in a punk band, and the things that you're talking about, the safety pins and the plaid and stuff like that, that's again part of that. If you want to call it like a religion, it really kind of puts up a wall for people to go, wait, well, let me kind of jump in because, they're not part of that thing. And, if we want to do like a retrospective of the podcast, uh, one of the reasons why, for me, I don't like talking politics or religion on the podcast is because that's part of the thing that bugs me. It automatically puts you up into a category. So I would rather just talk to someone on a level that I don't like. I don't give a fuck what you believe. I don't care who you vote for. Like it's all in the end, it's all bullshit. And those type of walls are unnecessary for a conversation. You go into a completely clean conversation because you eliminate those things that create the bullshit wall.
Insofar as you as Raz are capable, you are trying to be an objective interviewer. If I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, I hear you saying.
Yes, I'm not much of an interviewer, but I'm fascinated by people. And
And you're trying to receive them as objectively as
right.
possible.
Yes. And that kind of goes the same with the music aspect. Looking back when we started this podcast, it was very like, hey, let's start a podcast. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? But it allowed me to kind of discover music that I had previously would have never listened to just by avoiding, I guess, either the religion of the music or the gatekeeper aspect of the music. When we start talking to people on a one-on-one type of thing and they mention stuff and go, oh, that's actually really interesting. So it allowed me to kind of bypass the things that I find being bullshit as like, oh, this is my belief system in like politics or religion, or even this is my belief system in music, and allows me just to go directly to the source. Much like we don't talk about politics or religion, it allows us to go directly to the source of the person.
Yeah,
So the same thing goes with the music. We start talking to people on a direct source, and I get directly to the music.
yeah, you're finding out from people that you've become comfortable with, like why this stuff is important without the baggage of its labels. Did I tell you what my grandmother said about, or asked rather, about Aubrey's family prior to my wedding?
No.
So a big chunk of Aubrey's family is Japanese, and my 90-year-old grandmother asks a couple months ago prior to the wedding, having lived all her life in Long Island, New York, asks, did they eat normal food? I don't feel bad about throwing grandma under the bus a little bit because I know she's never going to hear about this,
Yeah.
but it's that sort of thing. Like, she just, I guess, thought that Japanese people only eat raw fish and rice. Turns out there's a Japanese restaurant in her town. So when I was there in September, I took her and my Aunt Kay and got my grandma shrimp tempura because she would like push a priest out of the way to like get to a table of shrimp. My grandmother, it's like catnip, shrimp, and boxed white wine are just like her get down. Anyway, so grandma now decided that she likes Japanese food because how did they get it so straight? The shrimp is so straight. How did they get it so fluffy? I've tried frying things. I can't get it that fluffy. It must be something in the fryer. But now this is like you being turned on to emo. It's like, no, Raz, emo is not just raw fish and rice. It turns out it's got some really tasty shrimp inside, like My Chemical Romance.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
I brought it around.
Brought it around.
I bet you didn't know where I was going with that.
I did not. I was like, why is he throwing grandma under the bus? But
The first big record of theirs came out in 2006, which I don't know if this is going to make you feel bad or not. That's when I graduated high school.
I'm just gonna get in my walker now. And
So I feel badly when I like, because nobody can help when they're born.
right? Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
That's just when I was born. I think that first big album of theirs came out in 2006, Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That had their big singles, their original big singles on it. And I mean, I know that they've always had that sort of like hot topic patina about them, but man, those songs had a good beat behind them from the beginning. And I think that was the sort of, you think emo, you think mopey. And this stuff, while it might have been depressed, was also active, this music. And that's, I don't know, that can do a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not completely 100% on the emo train, but I'm interested now, and I'm interested in other types of music.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this train has gone off the rails a little bit, but
It really has. But it was kind of on my mind as far as this being the year end and our last episode of this year, and we had just kind of, like I said, prior to turning on the mics, we were kind of talking about stuff, and this was kind of going to be my beef of beefs, but
was the emo thing?
no, just the whole labels and
That's why I talk to artists about the whole guitar music thing.
right, yeah.
There's a certain utility in vagueness or in broadness, in umbrellas.
Yes.
You know who likes a lot of music?
Who?
Odysseys.
Odysseys.
The bi-coastal indie rockists. They're actually not bi-coastal. They're all over the place.
Yeah, they're all over the
Christians in Chicago, I guess. Paul's out here. Other dudes are back east. I haven't gotten it straight in my head yet where they're all situated on a day-to-day basis. But we ran into them out here at a Halloween show at a Non Plus Ultra. They were really great guests. I was happy to talk to them, and they seem to be fitting into this strange vein of indie rock that has been making itself more recognizable to me the further along this audio adventure you and I go.
So we'll take a listen.
Yeah, let's like we said, it's a little early today.
It is early.
It's the end of the year.
Yeah.
Really, what do you want from us? We've given you what? 3-4 months of solid content
That's
so
right.
far.
So far.
Of really good Instagram posts, pretty good podcasts, middling Twitter and Reddit feeds, and no blogs.
No blogs. But
Oh, that's right. You know what we do have?
what do we have, Bill?
New merch.
That's right. We have official On the Green Couch mugs.
Yeah, the record label has had some Chris Kazin merch for a little while, but now we are branching out into podcast merch as well, so you can get your very own. We should have probably had a few this morning for ourselves. Coffee mugs. White mug, black coffee, green couch.
Yep. Available on artschoolrecords.com. But now let's jump in to listen to a little bit of Odysseys and hear what these guys have to say.
Sounds smart, kid. That is a person who's a great representation of what I expect from my athletes.
Alec Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin is a great
That needs an
representation of
explanation.
what I expect from my athletes. Like he does the broadcast voiceovers for the Metropolitan Opera. He runs charities. He's like big. Like he's considered running for mayor on a couple of occasions. He's on Saturday Night Live every week.
That's true. Well, yeah.
He's just a good New York
Yeah,
personality.
That's fair.
He's a person
like
who
Alec
pays
Baldwin.
who pays attention to where he's at and is very good to his home.
Oh, man.
All right, Raz, what was Arlington like?
Arlington was a small town in Massachusetts, and we had like 5 Catholic churches and no liquor stores. So we would just go over the town line to the Packy.
Nice.
Nice.
Right.
Yep, the
So-
packy, of course.
Right. He's the real
No, because I'm yeah. So I'm excited because our guests here
There are
are
a couple of massholes.
couple of
Yep.
massholes. We have Christian and Paul from,
Odysseys.
and they showed up early as
True,
good.
5:40. If you're from Mass, you gotta be on time.
Yeah, you got to be on time. So we were just kind of reminiscing about some of the Boston,
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts stuff before the podcast.
Yeah.
So I started to drop my R's.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, you know, we're among friends. Drop all the R's you'd like.
Yeah.
Where are you guys from?
I grew up in Boston.
I started out in Revere, Massachusetts, and then early on moved to Linfield. So it's like North Shore, like 15, 20 minutes like north of the city proper.
And there's 2 other guys in the band, right?
Yeah, there's 2 other guys, and we met them when we were out here.
Oh, so these guys they're from the West Coast?
Yeah, so
What's
Josh,
their names?
Josh is our like guitar player / drummer, and he's from Corona. And we
Mark's
have
from
Mark.
way west coast.
Yeah, Mark's from Guam.
He's from Guam, yeah.
Yeah, Mark's from Guam, but his family lives in like San Francisco too.
And he's what? That
drummer,
super
main drummer.
okay, so which drummer is the drummer and which drummer guitar player is the guitar player?
Mark is like yeah,
Interesting question.
yeah. So like
When you ask.
I saw you guys for the first time a week ago. You were playing at a show at Non Plus Ultra, and I ran into you guys because I was there to see
Ever So.
Android. So what was the lineup I saw then?
So Mark is he's a martial arts guy.
Yeah.
And he does jujitsu. He tore his LCL in his knee, completely just like obliterated it in like one of their first matches there. And so we had to get our rhythm guitarist Josh to play drums. And so we recruited our friend Jake to play rhythm guitar.
When we first started playing together and jamming and stuff like 3 years ago.
Just a 3-piece.
It was just me and Christian and Josh was drumming for us then.
Yeah.
Over time, it's like we'd be practicing and stuff, and he'd always love to pick it up, and like he would just learn the songs himself, just listening to him and stuff. So he'd always be noodling away. So after a certain point, once he kind of fell in with Mark, who was like he did he was in jazz band at Pepperdine and stuff, and like so he was like a very
Big jazz
technical
guy.
drummer. You know, we kind of started playing around with like having Josh on guitar sometimes because we really wanted to fill out the sound, especially live. So after a certain point, became Mark and Josh on guitar. So that's we'll get there, I assume, but on the record that we had put out in April, they're doing their respective roles there.
Yeah.
But then
We started touring
Yeah.
after that, and Josh filled in on drums again.
right.
So it's just like always moving parts with us.
Was it 7 or 9?
Yeah, we've
different
had like
drummers,
7
over-
drummers maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over like a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
No.
No, I didn't think so. Keep them coming then.
So how long have you guys been a band?
Maybe like 3, 4 years.
Going
3.
on 4 years.
Yeah.
But
9 drummers, 4 years.
Yeah, it's like
It's like Spinal Tap. Yeah.
Spinal Tap.
So which one of them exploded?
Right, totally. And you guys didn't know each other in Boston, but were you
surprising.
We met at
yeah.
school.
right?
Out
You met at
here,
school,
yeah.
but were you in bands in Boston? Because before we started
Yeah.
recording, we were talking about the scene there.
Oh, of course, yeah. So growing up in Boston, a lot of great like record stores and a lot of great music happening around you. And so like I would play around a lot in like high school, like all like the local venues. So we were doing like a lot of like indie rock. Like growing up, we like loved the Strokes. Like a lot of my friends would like listen to the Strokes and stuff, and I would be listening to like The Cure and like New Order. And so I'd like I'd play bass in that band, so I'd always have to write really punchy, heavy bass lines just because of like Peter Hook and Simon Gallup. And we'd play like indie and then a little harder, like more like experimental indie, I guess. And then it just turned into like more like experimental ambient music. And then I was like, no thanks, no more.
So then you moved to LA,
Yeah, moved to LA.
and then Paul. Do you go Paulie D? Is that what he called you?
Well, that is
That's his name.
my name.
His name's
that's
Paul
my name. Don't wear it
DeRico.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never got to really fall in with like a consistent group in high school. A lot of my friends would like play, and they would have shows like in the Boston area, which that kind of brought me like into the scene and kind of introduced it. Like I was really heavily involved in like school bands and stuff. So I was in like our jazz. We had like 4 or 5 different bands, even though like my graduating class was 152 kids. So like it wasn't a big place at all. It kind of forced me to get comfortable on a lot of different instruments and stuff. So I kind of fed a lot of my time into that. But I was always around, the different shows and stuff, and I always wanted to like be in it. So it was kind of like once I came out here, it wasn't like an overt mission that I was like, oh, all right, I got to find some people to like play with. But as soon as I came out, I was like, if I'm going to be really getting after this, then I got to make an effort now or else, it'll never happen. And then I walked into the station one day and Christian was in there. I think you were just alone. And I was like, hey, what are you doing in here? What's your name?
Right. So you guys got into broadcasting over at Pepperdine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were you involved in radio, or is that just something you're like, hey, I think in Boston were you involved?
Oh, in Boston, not so much. No.
Right.
No.
So when I came here, I was like, student radio has like beforehand made so many bands, like so much alternative rock came to life because of radio stations, and I always knew like, once I get to college, I want to be involved in like whatever music scene there is, and the radio station was the closest thing to that, and so I was like, sign me up.
Right.
Yeah, a big reason why I got involved there was like, or at the radio station anyway, it was like just to be around people that like actually, cared about the music they were listening to. And if you're going to commit some time to really being a part of an organization like that, I mean, it obviously resonates with you like a little bit more deeply than like, I don't know, I guess your average listener or something like that. So I didn't necessarily expect to meet like other musicians through that, but then it ended up bringing together like a lot of really talented people. And we made sure that we kept that going through the years. Like it became like an objective of ours to kind of put together events that would draw in like the other artists on campus, whatever that meant, whether they played music or like did poetry and stuff like that. But that kind of became like a spot for those kind of like musically or like arts inclined folks to kind of have like a hub on campus. So in a sense, I kind of got involved to be around like musical people, but I guess I never would have thought that like all these great dudes would have been, ready to go and just down to start hashing things out.
Right. Did you find all 9 drummers through that? Or?
No.
Maybe like 4.
Yeah, just like 4 or 5 maybe. Yeah.
So now that you guys found each other at Pepperdine, at a certain point, you're passing each other at the radio station. You're saying, "Hey, good show," and what? Who decides to start Odysseys?
Well, that's prior to the radio station days.
So I started Odd like at the end of high school, just because I wanted to because I was primarily just a bassist before, and I wanted to teach myself how to like write songs and stuff, and so I'd like teach myself how to play guitar and like do basic recording things and like try and do drums and whatever, and like teach myself how to sing or write lyrics. And then I came to Pepperdine and started like recording more demos and such. And I wanted to find a band. I wanted to like find people to play with. And me and Paul were both watching the same Pats game, like in like our rec center at school.
It was a playoff game. I don't remember which.
It was a playoff game. I think like the 2016 season.
Yeah.
But was talking like, oh, this dude's from Mass, and then I like went to the station for like my first like DJ meeting, and he was there, and I was like, yo, no way, like, you play music? And he's like, yeah, I play music, and so he invited me to come with him and his friend, who was Josh, to come play at this place.
Josh and I lived in the same house freshman year, which was when Christian was abroad for the first semester of freshman year, and so Josh and I got together and we started like just jamming and stuff in our rooms, and like similar deal, like through the years, like even, in middle school, high school, like we'd mess around in GarageBand and like record things and, just kind of get ourselves familiar with it. So we found this, we just wanted to go somewhere where we could be loud, because campus, the music building was like almost like exclusively for like music majors or whatever. So we couldn't really get our way in there very much. And there definitely wasn't like any sort of like instruments we could borrow or anything like that, or like amps, I guess. So we found this place in Santa Monica. It was called That British Place.
Have you heard of That British Place?
I think it was on like 16th or something.
Yeah. Cheech and Chong would practice there.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But so we decided, we were like, all right, we got to go somewhere where we can really play loud. So we booked
It's a
that
rehearsal.
session.
It's a rehearsal studio.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
it was
rehearsal
like
studio.
$25 for like an hour or something, or 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it was like reasonable enough to split between a few people. So we were gonna go there, and so then I met Christian. I was like, well, we're going there. We're playing. The more, the merrier. You know. Of course, after like talking about influences and stuff like that. So, yeah, we brought him along, and
Went there, showed them some of this stuff, and then I was like, y'all want to join? And then it was
Okay, so Odysseys was basically a solo project
yeah.
that you built a band around, but you hadn't played out prior to finding the band.
Not really, no. I just was looking for people, and like, you know, when you're in that high school, like, oh wow, I don't know if my music is either the best in the world or sucks. And you go to college and you're like, well, I still don't know, so we'll find out. And then just like played them a couple tracks there, and they like learned them on the spot, and I was like, dope. You gotta keep playing. You gotta keep learning.
well, it was like after that first time, we'd end up going like 2-3 times
Yeah.
a week. We'd just be hauling down to Santa Monica and just having a good night. Really late usually. I mean, we'd have class until
Yeah.
whatever time.
We do
9,
like
10 o'clock
10 to
sometimes.
midnight or something.
Yeah.
Just there, just playing. It's been pretty good.
But you're in Chicago now.
Yeah. Well, I was in Boston before, and it was just like I'd have Paul with me in Mass, and that's where one of our replacement drivers would come from.
Yeah.
And we'd play shows in Mass during the summer, and then back during the school year, we'd be back with Joshy, and we'd play with him. And like in Chicago, like it's funny, we toured through Chicago like this summer, so it was just like I've already been there with these guys, so it doesn't feel like so unfamiliar. And plus, like for a lot of our stuff, we don't play out that much. Like we record a lot though. So like we have just like a lot of material that we always do, and we'll like record remotely with one another. And whenever we feel good enough that we've released enough material, we're like, all right, like let's set up like 2 or 3 tours that we can all like, bank on being two together. And then like some one-off shows in LA here or there where I can come and like, fly on the cheap, and then we'll set some stuff up like through our Odd House stuff.
Well, that's what's great about kind of having like 2 sort of like a bases, because like at this point, when we first came out here, it was a bit more difficult to like put together shows, and even just like it took time to meet different bands that are playing and different bookers and stuff like that, and get familiar with like the smaller venues, if you want to call them like proper venues.
DIY venues, I guess.
Yeah. Which like through the years, back home, it's like you just get to meet those people, and you fall in with the right crowd, and then you know how to book. So we've always had an easy enough time back home, but it took like a good like year and a half or so out here to like
meet the right people, and like
just figure
feel
out
good
the
enough
scene.
to want to play.
Yeah.
How would you describe your music?
How would you describe it? You went to the show on Saturday.
Yeah, you saw it.
You talked to us first, and you were like, well, what kind of music do you play? Is
I
it
was-
like more rock? And so like after seeing, what do you think?
I was very curious. You had a couple of interesting things to say that night, Christian, about the nature of sort of a live band in Los Angeles versus in Massachusetts versus in Chicago and things like that. You sort of identified these regionalities, which I had not necessarily myself identified previously. And so I was I want to make certain that I come back around to hear you
of
talk
course.
more about that. But
course.
I would say that you guys, I mean, parts of your set, especially your covers, reminded me an awful lot of the sort of Allston party bands
Oh, cool.
that I would have been in and seen a lot of
nice.
back east.
Well, I will say we did kind of pull out. So we don't often do covers.
Yeah.
In fact, I think this is
First show.
One other time we
Yeah.
did a cover once at O'Brien's Pub, which you may be familiar with.
I've been there, yeah.
But otherwise, we kind of wanted to make this Halloween show a bit more of like a more of a party vibe than anything else. It was a celebration of sorts.
You guys were like enticing people to dance and stuff, which is for a group that is pretty explicitly guitar music is perhaps less common in my experience out here. Raz, I don't know how you feel about that, but I mean, I don't run into many groups and hear them say, "Come on, everybody, let's boogie."
Yeah, nobody in LA dances, or
They don't.
they just stand there with their arms crossed and stare at you. And
Yeah.
it's a strange phenomenon because I came in from the Boston scene before you guys. That scene, it was wild. You just get up and play, and people went
get rowdy, lose your mind.
They went ape shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what you were playing. You could be playing like a Ted Nugent song. You could be busting out like, like, Wango Tango, and people be just going, they'd be going ape shit. And, you're up on stage and, my band, like my bands in Boston, we sucked. But you get up on stage and, people are going mental and you're like, man, we're the best band in the world at this moment. And you come out to LA and there's a lot of people, but there's just people with their arms crossed looking at you. So what were the covers that you guys were playing to get people to get up and dance?
Well, the first one wasn't really for people to get up and dance. We're like, what's a spooky song we can play? Oh, let's play Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen, because it's like the people who love like that 80s new wave and goth sound, they're going to be the ones who are hyped because they're like, oh my God, I'm being represented at the show.
You're pressing their button.
Yeah, we're pressing. They're like, oh, I'm interested. But the song we got that like more so like I'd say like won the crowd over. Like by the end of this song, like everybody was dancing, and for the rest of the set, people were dancing and even moshing. Was "Better Off Alone" by Alice DJ. Just like that song. Just like
Do you think you're better off alone? Do 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 do
Yeah,
do.
okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're playing that.
Everybody
but, like,
knows this song.
but,
It's
like,
like you've
you
heard
know,
this at.
we were doing like a punkier, dancey version of it, and it was just like, it's there just for like people to feel familiar with something that they already know. So it's like you kind of associate that feeling of familiarity with the show, so that way you're more comfortable and relaxed. And by the next song that you don't know, and it's a little dancey too, you're already in the mood for it.
You're loose,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to say, that was nice when you guys just kind of sang it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Paul went straight for the bass. For it. He's like, oh well.
It was nice. And nobody had like their finger in their ear. Like
Yeah,
trying
it's
to find
true.
that
I wish I
note.
had one of those Britney Spears
All right,
mics though.
So you said you had an album that you just finished it, or is it?
Well, we put it out in April.
Okay.
We started recording it like last year, but the whole distance thing with everybody, we'd have to find like times where we could meet up and like do dubs and stuff. And we worked with like a lot of good people, some friends back home, like our mixing engineer David Cardona. He like helped us like really craft this from like being stringing microphones over beams in our garage,
Which
and
we ended up using. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
we ended up using like working in the back like production room of the station. Just working with him and helping him craft it. He's also another guitarist too, so we've had like 4 guitarists too. He's our East Coast touring guitarist, as well as
You guys are like the Blue Man Group.
spiritual. Yeah, right. We just have all these moving parts. Yeah,
He's our sage.
so we put the album out in April, and it's like the first thing we like officially released. So the first thing that we did before was we put out an EP back in like 2016, just because like that's also coming from like that place of like insecurity and wanting to dip your like feet in the water, like, hey, like I don't know if I can play shows if I only have songs that are not out on the internet yet. Might as well just put together like 6 songs to put up and like feel good about, to like kind of establish yourself somewhat. So like that was a really big jumping point for us, because now we had like this renewed confidence to just be able to play wherever and just be like, hey, this is something we've done, we've showed it to you, like we like you, you like us, let's play.
Right, like the physical medium, or just gives you kind of credibility. Like
Exactly.
having an EP allows you to kind of then take that next step, like you said, and go out and play shows.
Play the shows. And then with the album, we're like, oh my God, we're gonna lose our minds. Let's tour, let's go all over. So we went like down the East Coast. We went through Chicago, we went up to Canada too, and then have like kept playing shows here on the West Coast as well. And like it's just been great, just because I feel like, especially for more so independent artists that are just starting up, you never know when it's like your time to officially start something. Like I feel like there's a lot of this like, well, am I big enough to tour? Should I tour yet? Or like, do I feel good enough to like release something on a physical medium? Or like, can I even book shows with other artists who are bigger than me?
So how many shows have you played off of this one?
This record?
Yeah.
Like, so it's funny, we used to play like 2 or 3 shows a year, and now we've played like 15 or like 20. Like going up and down and all over, and like that just feels great. Like you're not going to get better unless you play live. No.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. You practice your set in the garage and stuff like that, and you go out and you play, and that first show sucks.
Oh yeah.
But then as you start kind of going, oh, okay, we're now, the shows are our practices, and they just kind of keep getting better and better. So of these like 15 shows, what was your most favorite one?
Oh man, it's got to be definitely for me the album release show.
Yeah.
We played it here in April, like a couple days after the album came out, and we played it with this band, Vintage Flowers, great indie band.
sick.
We played it
Hair Perfect.
an awesome like vaporwave band. We played with this sick band. Blood Candy.
Blood Candy,
They're
yeah.
so hard. They're so good. Probably like one of the best live performances I've ever seen from like an independent band. They were bomb. And then we got to play last. And like for us, whenever we book a show, like we'd never like to put ourselves last or like headline or anything like that. So for us, like this was the first time we actually did with the intention of us closing because like fuck it, it's an album release show. You know, you got to do it. And like we were so uninhibited the entire night. Like, you know, we were drinking with some friends beforehand and just like dancing because this is when we started to just like, you know, get everybody up, get up front. And then like people would actually dance and listen. So it's just like on stage, we just kind of continue that energy. And we had people like moshing and throwing themselves like up front for the first time. We had never had that before just because like we were just like more so a dream pop band for the longest time. And like nothing was ever happening at our shows. And we're like, shit, we want people to like move more. Like we want to be more, we want to be heavier with our sounds. And like, with the album, we kind of like explored, like it was like a beautiful gateway into like a new genre for us. And like we got to see it happening firsthand at our like album release show, and like all of us were going nuts, all of us were playing really well.
All right, so before you kind of skirted the question, I asked you what kind of music you play, and you said,
Oh,
"I don't
yeah,
know,
yeah,
what kind of
I
music
can
do
tell you
play?"
right now.
And now you've said dream pop, but then you've alluded to the fact that you guys have gotten a bit
Heavier,
rougher,
yeah.
grittier, maybe. So, and you know, if I had to put like a blurb on your album cover, I'd probably say you guys sound like a drunk Vampire Weekend.
Oh, cool. Thanks,
Cool.
man.
I don't mean that as a pejorative necessarily.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying like
No, I love getting like those, the band, but with an adjective before it.
Yeah.
Like we were playing in Chicago and we're like, you remind us of Pulp, but when they were goth. And I was like, oh, sick.
so that would make you nominally an indie rock band.
So overall, I guess the overarching genre we use is like post-punk.
All right.
It shows
Does that read to you the same way as indie rock does?
Not,
know you
not
know it as
necessarily. When I
a-
think of like indie rock, I think of like
REM.
no.
Indie rock.
They're definitely alternative, and like
Yeah,
overall, I'll just say like we play alternative music. But if they're like, oh, what kind?
Yeah.
I'll just say like post-punk. Just because for us, like that's one of our biggest influences of era is just like that late '80s kind of like, or like all around late '70s, early '80s, like kind of darker sound or new wave groups. Like you have like Depeche Mode, and you have like The Cure, and you have New Order, and even like I don't know, like Replacements too. Like we love like, you know, that like blend of like punk and that goth. And so when it comes to our live shows, obviously we'll play like the harder, like the more dancier, faster songs. But like if you listen through the album, there's like a lot of like little moods and like darker production. And for us, like we like to like use synths and stuff too to like create like more atmosphere, but not necessarily just like only atmosphere, not only ambience. We just try and make the room feel bigger and colder, like in the studio. But like when we play live, we just want to have an impact, I guess, and have a bigger reach. So we'll play some songs that'll play better to a group of people who want to dance at a Halloween party, instead of just like, what am I like best feeling right now, or like, you know, what do I think overall, like what would be a good set to represent the group?
I guess I'm curious. So, one, I like the flexibility of having, you know, the recognition of something that works as a pre-recorded art object and then something that is a performance piece, and those two things being acknowledged as being different. That's great. You know, both of those things are sort of your contributions to what I conceptualize as the book of art. Everybody who's in a band is working on the book of art, right?
Sure.
Some people are working on the same chapter. I try to keep myself from working on the same chapter as other people, not because there's anything wrong with chapter 7 or chapter 11, but because it's somebody else is already doing that.
Right.
Why would I think that I need to fill that space up? So this is sort of my metaphor for asking you guys if you feel like you're working towards something, kind of like where do you see your band going? What are your non sort of like, oh, we'd love to play bigger shows. Like, okay, yeah, everybody would like to play bigger shows, but what is it that you guys want to do with your art that you think would be interesting that you haven't? What bridges haven't you crossed yet? What are you looking to do next? I mean, you're clearly on tour in support of this record, but your sound, as you're admitting, is developing. Where do you see this going? Where are you guys looking to go next?
Well, for us, we're really excited. Like, when you think of the name Odysseys, like, obviously,
you have like Homer and stuff in your mind. Like,
I was going to ask you if there was any
I'm definitely
relevance.
Greek. I'm Greek. I'm Greek. I
He's
love
Greek, guys.
Yeah, I like Greek stuff and Greek history, but I don't want it to just like be overshadowed by like a really good story. Like for us, when we chose the name, like it was, we want like each like song to tell a different story. We want the space in between them to tell another story. We want to keep growing our sound so that no two songs that are set sound exactly the same, or that we try and create all these different moods and all these different elements that make us grow as like artists, and like, you know, create the experience that we'd want to have created for us, or create the environment that we'd want to be a part of. Like, we don't want to lead anything, we just want to be involved in different scenes. And so for us, when we think of what's next, well, obviously bigger shows and stuff is cool, but like we want to learn more about ourselves. Like, we want to spend more time in the studio and like think about our backlog and how it's growing and what can we put out next. Like next week we're putting out 2 new singles and they don't sound like any of the other stuff we've been doing before. And like that excites us because it means we're growing and we're changing as a group, and that every time we go back to the studio, we're not listening to the same records as we were beforehand. We're listening to new stuff, and we're getting older too, and life's hitting us faster now that, like, you know, we're not in college anymore. Like every step we take is like that much more important to us because we have the time now to look back and be like, well, what was I thinking then? What was I doing? Like, growing up as an artist, you get to see all of your influences like kind of hit you as you listen to the records that you thought were so innovative at the time, because you see exactly who you were at that time. And like for me as a musician, I'd really like to stop being able to recognize like my writing process. Like for something that I'm really excited about is I started using different techniques for recording and like integrating like, you know, more tape machines, going full more analog, like building a richer, deeper sound, writing better songs that like I can show like people other than yeah, showing like my girlfriend too, or like showing my friends, and them like I like not telling people like when I put the music on, because they're like, oh, that's either great or that's shit, just so that I can get a glimpse of like, I want to be unrecognizable, you know? I don't want people to listen and be like, oh, that's you. Like, that's something that I'm excited about. Or, like, when they see us live, they're like, oh, fuck, you sound different. It's, yeah, like, no way. Like, we've been practicing. We want to be a different band every time you see us. Like, we don't want to just be stuck in the same thing, writing the same way. We want to play in new scenes, new styles, and new songs.
And I think something that helps out with that, too, is, like, we're pretty, not particular necessarily, but, like, when we're booking shows in different cities, like, we like drawing from, in terms of who we reach out to and, like, who we'll book a show with, or, like, the bill as a whole. We try to associate like whatever sound like we enjoy that comes out of any particular city, and kind of reach out to groups like within, you know, a certain circle, so that the whole night can be kind of cohesive. Not only so that like, you know, people would come out and see like, you know, similar-ish bands, but it's kind of something that we did like with the record as well, just kind of like building something that works like as a whole. Like, so any band you see, you know, they kind of play along with each other, and, you know, say like the order of the album, or like the different, like there's a lot of you know, as we mentioned, like different moods or like different feels, like even with just from track to track, there isn't all that much I don't want to say not consistency, because it's consistent in that like there is like an overarching like
Theme or message or mood.
Yeah. But like
There's variation.
Right. And so we want to, like, it's definitely something that we, like, go out of our way to kind of pursue, is, like, at least with each night, whether it's the bands that we're playing or the set that we put together, like, we want people to be able to come away with it with, like, some sort of singular thing, so that we can, like, almost, like, move on from it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Like
this is a night.
Yeah, this was a more gothy night, or
Yeah.
this was a more like punk night, or this was a more like indie night. It's just like you build your sound around.
Because, I mean, you're never feeling the same way.
Yeah.
So, like, why would we want to play a set that, you know, even if we're playing the same set, it's like, you know, if we're doing it a few nights in a row, it's like, we'll try to move things around as best as we can, just because it's
I don't
like...
think we've ever played the same set twice.
No, we definitely haven't. And it's not like, oh, you know...
Oh, yeah, we're flexing about that fact.
Yeah, it's not a flex. It's just like, I mean...
Yeah, my eyes were glowing with that.
Well, for me, at least, it's more like what it comes down to. It's like, you're not going to feel the same way, so why, you know, put on the same face every day, you know?
I'd be interested to see you guys put together Spotify playlists of
Oh, we do.
of
Yeah.
the of the best of like here's the best of Denver.
Oh yeah.
like,
oh yeah. Regionally.
Here's that
That'd be
Louis.
fun.
Here's the New Orleans sound that we
Nice.
identify. Like and obviously,
yeah, of
I don't
course.
mean like a Dixieland jazz sound. I mean
Oh,
like
dude, don't worry.
here's
I'm absolutely gonna
Odyssey's
snag this
experience
idea.
of New Orleans.
Well, like for us, what we would like to do is we have like a monthly playlist that we put out called For Your Mood, and it's just like how we're all feeling this month.
Cool.
Like so, like for our October one, we put like a lot of like awesome like punk music because we're like fuck it, it's October. But like we like to be like romantic in September and play like Francoise Hardy and stuff, and feel good about ourselves,
Okay.
enjoy like the romantic stuff. Because it's just like, no month is the same, no mood's the same, so it's just like, you just got to channel it and go through it. And if you're embarrassed with the playlist, you should be. Because like, it should be raw, it should be like, mean something to you. And if you don't care about it, then why post it?
That sound you didn't hear was Paulie nodding.
Yeah.
I'm nodding.
And Paul, you have a podcast yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah, tell us about your.
It doesn't have anything to do with the band. It's called Peers and Beers. Peers and Beers is the name.
Yep.
Me and my buddy Steven.
I've been on it.
Yeah, Christian's been on it. We kind of bring in both. So Steven and I were both production majors at Pepperdine, and we just bring on other like creative friends that are like trying to pursue something in like the arts. There's some sort of arts field, whether they're actors or actresses or musicians or we've had Grips on the show, like stuff like that. So we just try to like pick their brains and figure out where they're at in their professional journey, because nobody that's like broken any sort of like bubble, if you will, yet. Like they haven't quite made it, but they want to, and it's like we want to just figure out more about where they're at. So that's Peers and Beers, and they pick a beer of their choice, and we drink them,
Awesome.
and that's the podcast.
That's
So
cool.
You can find it on Apple Podcasts.
That's
So where
cool.
could
Yeah,
we
so fun.
find out about the rest, like the Odyssey stuff? Like,
Yeah.
you guys got a website? You guys?
Yeah, of course. So you can
Bandcamp.
find all of our music on Spotify, Apple Music, I think like Amazon too, or Pandora, wherever you.
somehow on Tidal.
Yeah, we're on Tidal
Yeah.
too.
I don't know how
Like-
that happened, but
Oh, baby. Distribution right here. I got you.
Yeah,
And is Odyssey spelled any specific
Oh
way?
yeah, two
Yeah, it's
D's.
spelled.
It's the way that Odysseys is spelled, like normally, but with an extra D. So it's Odd-Asseys, because we're weird guys. We like weird things.
it's a weird journey.
Yeah, weird journey. Strange. Strange fascinations and shit. That's the way we like to do it. Yeah, like.
ODD.
Oh yeah, true. Like even today, we were shooting wicked weird music video.
Oh yeah.
Cause why not?
Yeah.
We were shooting at like a hospital set.
Yeah.
For like this track on the album called "Breathe with Me."
We had our
and
buddy
like
strapped to a gurney, like
yeah,
wheeling him around.
we had him high,
Buddies in a
handcuffed.
wig. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our buddies was in a wig doing drag, like whipping him with a bullwhip.
There's more to it than just the fact that he's
Yeah,
in the wig.
but
like,
there's
you'll
another
see that.
shoot
You'll see
tomorrow
that when it
too.
comes out.
We're actually what we're doing. So like for us, we're like pretty nostalgic guys or whatever. So like we shoot a lot on VHS. Y'all still like VHS?
Oh yeah.
You still
You familiar
have
with it,
some of
the
your
format?
VHS?
I found a good copy of the Terminator on VHS a couple of
Ooh,
days ago at the
Hell yeah.
park.
Did you grab it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
No, I
VHS
used
guy?
to edit on VHS.
Oh,
Yeah,
hell yeah. The editing bays.
Yeah, the two things.
The-
yeah.
Oh, I really wanted to steal a bunch of those from my school before they threw them out because they had the old analog VHS editing bays, and I was like, God, this is the sexiest VCR I've ever seen. I control the fast forward speed
Yeah.
and like the color tint, so I have like a couple of color monitors at home, but it's not the same.
I had to do it with the knobs in and
Oh,
out. Yeah.
oh, it's such a gratifying experience.
Yeah.
So for us, like, like all of our like childhood memories and stuff was like shot on VHS camcorders. So we're actually releasing a VHS to coincide with the album.
All right.
Yeah.
So we've been shooting we have 9
Yeah.
videos that we're finishing up over this week, at least with the shooting. And so it's a video for every song. It's part narrative, mostly narrative,
Yeah.
but part like documentary-esque, where we're just pulling from footage we've taken on tour on our little
Yeah.
cameras and stuff.
But what I found actually fascinating was you have a video companion for each song.
Yeah.
Because most bands, they do that. They fall into the trap, and we always talk about this, of single and a video. Single and a video. And they're constantly chasing. Right. So,
Well, what we want out of this, ideally, I mean, it's tough enough to get people to sit and watch like a 2-minute video, let alone like this will be like 35 minutes ish. But most of the videos have like an overarching like narrative, so there is like a story that kind of flows through like each track. So ideally, if people would sit and watch the whole thing through, then they'll all kind of make sense together. And then there are certain characters that, you know, have this little journey throughout the whole.
It's like you learn
you know.
more about the album overall
Right.
too.
It's like McBain.
Yeah, I was gonna say more like Pink Floyd, The Wall.
I was going to say Pink Floyd.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
There we go. That's my favorite album of all time and one of my
Yes.
favorite movies of all time. And it's just like so, it's like such different experiences of like listening and seeing. But like that's what I think is so interesting about like companion music videos. You have like that ability to like put a picture into someone's head, just like every time they listen to the song, or if they already have such like a strong connection to the song already, it's just another like buffer for them, like, you know, something else for them to think about too.
So I feel like the paradigm is sort of set in this mode by Lemonade.
Oh yes, of course.
How do you
Incredible.
guys see that
Oh,
as
so
being
good.
a reply or answer, or just like
I'd be like, oh,
in,
definitely.
In what way do you operate in or out from the shadow of
Lemonade?
what is basically almost
Queen Bee.
a video first?
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I think is so interesting. Like today, more
Or that
than ever, we're
I
seeing
should
like
say that the
we're seeing
video
a
is
lot of
inseparable from the record.
well, like
Yeah.
it's just like the hand in the glove, you know, like where does one meet, where does one end, like the phantom limb. So it's just very cool to me to see like artists like, you know, Beyonce like always pushing the envelope, trying to like, you know, make more human stories, like make their albums even more relatable and like for people to be able to experience them on such a different level.
It's called Odd Behavior. That's sort of
That's the
the.
name of the
album.
record.
Oh, that's the name of
Yeah.
the record. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because we talked about your record and you never said the name of it.
Yeah.
That's
It's called
it.
On Behavior. It was
And
written
any
as-
of these are any of these videos available to watch already?
Hell no.
We're
Wait for the
cutting them
VHS,
still.
baby.
We're still
okay.
shooting.
We're shooting it.
It's gonna.
We started shooting in like Boston. We shot like some in September, and then we got the whole family together in November and October. So we started shooting, and we got a big old shoot tomorrow, in LA. Y'all should come if you'd like. You don't have to say yes on the air or no on the air. Just saying you're invited if you want to come. If you
We'll
don't,
see what time
that's
it's at.
cool. That's cool. It's 12 to 8, but whatever. Not a big deal. You don't have to be there the whole time or whatever. But yeah.
But well, so I mean, we've certain things are cut together, but the transitions are going to be really important where they're all supposed to flow. So we're just making sure we have everything in the can, you know, and so we can really get the timing right before moving forward with any one thing. But I mean, they will come out as well as like individual videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit through the whole thing.
Just like with, you know, Pink Floyd, The Wall, the movie, you can go on YouTube and watch that awesome Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 scene, or the Don't Leave Me Now scene, or any of them, because it's amazing.
But like, ideally, like to get the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's
to
like
make it
you would-
digestible.
Yeah, you would want to watch.
Cut it.
it
You
for
you
real.
guys ever tried to watch 200 Motels?
What's that?
No, what is it?
One of Frank Zappa's movies.
Oh,
That
well,
undigestible.
well,
I
a lot
love
of his
Frank
music
Zappa.
is incomprehensible.
I love Frank Zappa. That movie will make you pull your hair out.
Well, what I think is really funny about Frank Zappa is he's one of the few artists that's been banned from SNL for life.
Well, lucky him, he's dead then.
Yeah, I know, right? Apparently, like,
So the ban is over.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know if Moon Unit is banned, but
Unit.
we'll see.
That's Frank Zappa 1.
Yeah.
SNL, nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Take it, NBC.
No, he was a fascinating guy because he was involved with Atlantic Records and he was on a 7-record deal with them. So he recorded all 7 records at once, made them, walked into Atlantic Records, dropped the masters on their desk and said,
I'm out.
I'm out. So
Here's your
done.
7 record.
yeah,
Well
7
done.
records, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a power move, honestly.
Yeah.
If we ever did that, just get a bunch of B-sides amassed
yeah.
and just be like, here you go, 3-album deal.
Well, the industry standard has changed in
Yeah.
direct result.
Yeah,
Of Frank
yeah.
Zappa.
He's like the Sean Avery of record contracts.
Sick. I don't know who Sean Avery is.
He was a guy who played for the Rangers during the playoffs. He got in Marty Brodeur's face, and basically the reason why you can't just like mug a goalie by like just like waving your hands in front of his face while somebody else shoots the puck is because of Sean Avery.
Oh, that's funny.
It's called the
kinda-
Sean Avery rule now.
You know how like Brad Marchand would go up to other players and lick them?
Is that? Are
Yeah.
you not allowed? Are you
You're
explicitly
not allowed to lick them.
people?
Otherwise, it's like a personal like penalty or something. It's so funny. He would go up to them and he would lick
Just
them
get
on
in
the
their
cheek.
face and
He's
just-
the
and he would lick them.
dirtiest, filthiest son of a bitch in the league.
Yeah, but he's
He's a
so
rat.
fantastic. He's such an incredible player. He's a great team player. He's on the sickest line in the Bruins.
I love when they show his face, like on the, it comes up and he looks like he owns the worst French restaurant in Boston.
Yeah, he does. Oh my god.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like that brings us full circle.
Well, I was excited for you because this is our first guest that we've had that are musicians and they could talk hockey.
Yeah, we can
And they
talk
could talk
hockey.
hockey.
We can talk football.
Everybody who comes in from a hockey city, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter in what context I'm meeting them. It's like, oh, you're from Detroit? You a Red Wings fan? No. All right. Well, yeah. Fuck me. Whatever. Don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah, fuck you. Gordie Howe's sick. Fuck you.
There goes half my questions.
Yeah.
all right,
So
you got
you
nothing
like
to say about the Sabres, huh?
You like
Oh.
General Motors? You heard of Motown Records before?
Jack White, anybody? Jack
Yeah.
White?
All right.
Okay.
Well,
Hey.
Paulie D, Christian, Odysseys. Remind us once again where we can find your stuff.
You can find us on all streaming platforms. Odd Behavior came out in April. We got 2 new tracks coming out next week. Be sure to follow us on like Apple Music or Spotify or
Instagram too. That's where we post most of our
Instagram.
news and stuff. Like
Our
any
news.
updates would come from that. So it's just at.
you want
Odysseys.
news, you go to Insta.
Yeah.
You want event dates and details, you go to
Kids never
Facebook.
come to shows anymore. They
You
just wanna
want
watch the news on
you want to
Snapchat.
see our declining mental health, you go to Twitter.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. Paul and Christian, thank you very much
Thanks so much for
coming
having
in and
us.
sitting on the green couch.
Oh,
It's very comfortable.
it's very green too. I actually didn't notice until now.
The show's called On the Green
It's
Couch.
on the green couch.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. That makes a lot of sense.
On the Green Couch is a production of ArtSchool Records in conjunction with and recorded at Project 4 Studios in Burbank, California. The show is edited by Raz, with additional production support by Dixie Trussell. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It all goes to helping other people find us. For more information, please visit our forever home on the web at artschoolrecords.com. I'm Bill Zunkin, and thanks for listening.
Hey, you're listening to On the Green Couch. Tune in next week to listen to me, Jesse S., talk about some of my recent projects.